Welcome to the 10th annual Manatee Glen's Walk for Life. This is the kickoff, and I'm Mary Ruiz, President and CEO of Manatee Glen's. We've been holding this event each year for 10 years, and for all of those 10 years, Marie Overgard has been a participant in the Walk for Life. Marie, thank you so much for all the volunteer work that you've done for Walk for Life.
Welcome. I appreciate the comment. Thank you. I enjoy doing it.
You have a personal involvement with the issue of depression and suicide awareness because of a loss in your family. What happened, Marie?
Well, in Thanksgiving Day 2002, our beloved grandson Matthew died by suicide in his barracks at Fort Benning, Georgia.
That must have been a terrible shock and just an awful, awful thing for your family to live through. And you don't ever really get over something like that, do you?
No, you don't. You try, but you don't. But getting involved with the Walk for Life has been super.
The Walk for Life is a great event. It's September 22nd, Sutton Park in Palmetto. We walk 5K. Marie and I don't walk, do we? No. But we have almost 1,000 people who do walk over the Green Bridge, 5K, bright yellow T-shirts. And then my favorite part of the day is the butterfly release. Is that yours too?
Yeah, I guess I'm the butterfly lady because I announced the release of the butterflies, and it's a beautiful sight.
It is, and it's an occasion for healing for folks like the Overgards who have lost a loved one to suicide. Thank you for everything that you've done to raise awareness for suicide.
I thank you very much for having us.
I'm here with Ken Followell with Bright House. Hi, Ken.
Hello, how are you doing?
Bright House is our host today at the Walk for Life kickoff party. And Ken, why is Bright House involved with the Manatee Glen's Walk for Life?
Well, first off, we're involved because we believe giving back to the community is important. The other thing is we know that depression and suicide affects all families. It's affected my family. I've dealt with it personally. I've had family members who have committed suicide, and Bright House wants to help raise awareness and let people know there's help and there's healing.
Yes, there is. We lose more people in Manatee County to suicide than to traffic accidents. And that's a shock for a lot of people that so many are affected.
You know, so many people just don't realize because it's not covered in the press out of concern for the families, which is commendable, but it is so common that we really need to let people know that you can deal with it.
You're not alone.
Absolutely.
You're not alone. That's true. So we're expecting over 60 people here today at the kickoff, and Bright House has provided wonderful refreshments, and we're looking towards raising $60,000 for suicide awareness and treatment for crisis services so that maybe we can spare some families the kinds of losses that your family has experienced, Ken.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and that's the whole goal. You know, let people know that there's help out there and we're not stuck with this by ourselves.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, I'm Mary Ruiz, President and CEO of Manatee Glen's, and I'm here with board member Dr. Pat Lucas. Welcome, Pat.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
We are at the Manatee Glen's Walk for Life kickoff for our September 22nd, 10th annual 5K walk. We start in Sutton Park and we walk over the bridge with 1,000 other people. And this is the kickoff, right?
This is the kickoff. This is the time when our team captains come in and hopefully get excited about this event and are looking forward to recruiting their team members. And we not only start in Sutton Park, we end up back there, and I'm hoping this year we have 1,200 or better participants. Last year we had a little over 1,000.
Wow, that's great. And so this is a team effort. We recruit teams. The team captains are here today. How many teams are we hoping for?
Oh, as many as we can get, probably 60 to 70 teams at least, I hope.
And we have teams from each school, correct?
Each of the high schools has been fielding a team, some of the middle schools and elementary schools also, and many faculty members from the schools participate too.
Schools can sign up online at www.manateeglens.org. You can sign up for your team, and the password is your school mascot.
Right.
So that should be easy for everybody. And we give prizes to the schools, right?
Yes. The schools compete in their own categories, and like high schools against high schools, etc. and the school that turns out the most participants does get a trophy.
Wow, that's wonderful. There's lots of grand prizes.
There are. Last year's big grand prize was worth over $700, and there are always many other prizes also. So it's a lot of fun, and when people arrive in the morning at Sutton Park, there's always juice and water, and after they participate in the walk, they come back, and the Kiwanis fixes hot dogs and hamburgers and so forth. So there's a little lunch after it, and then of course we do the butterfly release, and also do the prize drawing and so forth.
There's a little boot scooting going on too, because we have a DJ from Available Sound.
Robert from Available Sound is there.
And something new this year, we are a sanctioned run. So runners can register and sign on on a shoestring and get credit as a sanctioned run. And we'll be giving prizes to the runners this year as well.
That's great.
Dr. Lucas has been chairing this event for many years.
Yes.
And you too have a personal reason for being involved with Walk for Life.
Yes, one of the reasons I originally became involved with Manatee Glens was because I had a brother closest to me in age who suffered from depression and in fact took his own life back in 1985. And so this was a very traumatic event for all of us in our family, and I certainly have wanted to do everything I could to raise people's awareness that depression is a disease that can be treated and that we need to treat it so that we don't have so many tragedies.
And I don't know that Dr. Lucas has ever added this up, but over the 10 years that we've been doing this fundraiser, we have raised over $150,000 to treat depression and to prevent suicide. So congratulations for making a difference.
Congratulations to everybody who participates.
So we'll look forward to seeing everybody September 22nd.
Thank you. See you there.
I'm here with Bob Delaney, who is our keynote speaker at the Manatee Glens Walk for Life Kickoff Party. Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Good, Mary. Great to be with you all.
He is a wonderful keynote speaker. What a great story you have.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And so what are your thoughts today that you hope to convey to our captains to motivate them to work for depression awareness and suicide prevention?
Yeah, I thought I would share the same message that I've been sharing with our military troops. Was in Afghanistan this past February. I've been at a different military base or post every week since February, and sharing the post-traumatic stress education, awareness, suicide prevention message.
That's a wonderful message. It is sad for me to hear 2 years ago that the military announced they lost more soldiers to suicide than to combat. So the work that you do is really important.
Yeah, while we think of this as a military or law enforcement or firefighters condition, it's a human condition.
Yeah.
It's not a mental disorder. Right. It's a reaction to the experience. So what I say to them, it's not what is wrong with you. It's about
what
the
happened
wrong
to you.
that you experienced.
Exactly. And we feel the same way at Manatee Glens. All of our care is trauma informed because so many of our clients have experienced some kind of trauma. It can happen in a car wreck, loss of a loved one, serious medical illness, military service. There are lots of ways that people can experience trauma.
Yeah, we're all susceptible to it.
That's right. It's the human condition, as you say.
It is a human condition.
Well, thank you, Bob. We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say today.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you. Well, I am Mary Ruiz, President and CEO of Manatee Glens. I want to welcome you to the 10th annual Walk for Life. This is our kickoff party. I want to thank everyone for coming out, for organizing teams, for being our rah-rah group. And this is going to be the biggest walk ever. Last year we had about 1,000 people. We're expecting 1,200 on September 26th in Sutton Park. And you're 22nd, excuse me. 26 is when I come back from vacation. So I'll be back in time, don't worry. I want to ask Dr. Pat Lucas, who is the chair of the Walk for Life. She is with the Manatee Glens Board of Directors and our chair for our committee for Walk for Life.
Thank you, Mary, and I certainly appreciate all of you coming out this evening for this team captain party to kick off your recruitment of your teams to participate on September 22nd for the Walk for Life. I've been involved. I was on the board when we started the Walk for Life, and I've been involved every year. I really have lost track as to how many years I've chaired the committee, probably around 5, I think. But at any rate, I became involved originally with Manatee Glens. Well, I worked for the school system, and we wanted somebody to be on the Manatee Glens Board of Directors and so forth. But I also had a very personal interest in that I had a brother who was closest to me in age in my family, and he suffered from depression, and in 1985 he took his own life. And so I have always been very interested in promoting awareness that depression is a disease that can be treated, and that we need to be sure that people do get proper treatment so that other families don't have to go through these same kinds of tragedies and lost of very valuable lives that are ended too soon. As Mary said, this is the 10th Walk for Life, and we are hoping to have around 1,200 or more people there this year. We did have over 1,000 last year, and it's really quite a sight to see all the yellow shirts going over the bridge, over the green bridge toward Bradenton from Palmetto. We do start and end in Sutton Park in Palmetto, and when walkers arrive first thing in the morning, there's juice and water and so forth for them. And then once the walk is completed, they come back, and the Kiwanis always prepares hamburgers and hot dogs and all the trimmings to go with it for a light lunch. And then once we're finished with the light lunch, of course, we do the various drawings, recognitions for the teams that participate. All the schools that participate compete with one another, and the school, for example, the school and the high school that has the most participants, and the middle school, the elementary school gets a trophy, and appropriate recognition also for their other team recognitions that are given. And then, of course, to me, one of the highlights is when we do the butterfly release, and we also do the bubble release. Those two things, though, are particularly the butterfly release, seems to be something that really does have a very positive effect. It's it provides people with some closure and a kind of emotional release if they've had to go through this kind of tragedy in their own family or with other people that they know. So this is a very, very great experience to have, and we really look forward to having you participate. I should talk a little bit about the prizes. This year's grand prize drawing, everybody who registers is entered, and last year's prize was worth over $700, so I'm sure this year's prize will be equally interesting and valuable. And of course, METV will be there filming, so people will have the opportunity to see you on TV too. And of course, this is a family event. People come and bring their whole families many times. Lots of people bring their dogs too. So it's Sutton Park is pretty full by the time we get done. And Mary, do you think of anything else I should add? The runners. Oh, that's right. This year too, this will be a sanctioned run, so that runners can go register. Do you have that information?
Yeah, on the website.
It's on the website, okay. They can register, and this will count as a sanctioned run. So that's a new thing that's been added, and that's, I think, a very good thing for people who are into running that much. So we look forward to seeing all of you, and I hope that you're all extremely successful in recruiting your teams. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Lucas. And I want to introduce our keynote speaker now. His name is Bob Delaney. Anybody heard of Bob Delaney, maybe? Yeah. He has been very busy traveling internationally, nationally, and we certainly see him in this community. He's a former decorated trooper with the New Jersey State Police. He's a retired NBA referee. That's probably how most people remember him. Before his current initiative, he and his wife Billy are dedicated to raising awareness of depression and post-traumatic stress. The U.S. military 2 years ago announced we lost more soldiers to suicide than to combat, and Bob Delaney means to change that and help our forces resist the effect of trauma and on their health. So, Bob?
Appreciate it. Opportunity to be with you is an honor. And I like to walk around when I speak, but Charles is in charge. You remember that show? Well, Charles is in charge here, so I'm going to have to stay in this area. But I'll start to wander, but I'll come back. But in starting, what I wanted to do was share with you what I share with our troops. I was in Afghanistan this past February. I've been to Iraq on a couple occasions, visiting the men and women who serve us, and sharing this post-traumatic stress education awareness message. And what I offered to them is that there's a formula for development, for growth. And I wasn't really good in school, but I remember that the teachers always put these formulas up on the board, X plus Y equals Z. I never understood how that could happen, how an X can equal a Z. But I stole that kind of format and said, let's go with experiences plus intellectual readiness plus reflection equals development. So experiences are my experiences, your experiences, and if we share them, then we learn from each other. Intellectual readiness is the studying of a particular subject. If we want to become knowledgeable about something, we have to immerse ourselves into it and find out about it. We have to study it. At age 56, I went like Rodney Dangerfield. I had to start changing it in the presentation because a lot of the kids didn't know who Rodney Dangerfield is. So I started saying I was like Will Ferrell. I went old school. I went back to school and got my master's in leadership at St. Mary's College in California. And it was because I wanted to learn about leadership. I saw it across the dining room table from my mom and dad. I saw it with my family. I saw it in the state police as a trooper. I saw it in the NBA. I even saw it in the mob when I infiltrated and became part of that subculture. You can learn from things that are wrong. So I saw leadership that was being done in a wrong way, but could learn from it. So I wanted to understand it from the academic side. That's intellectual readiness. Then plus reflection. That's the hard part for all of us. That's becoming introspective, looking at ourselves and how does this all fit into where I have some kind of understanding of where I fit on this team and where I fit in this world. But if you do all that, you're going to have development, you're going to have growth. So we can either put leadership development, we can put referee development, we can put soldier development. In front of that word development, we can put post-traumatic stress development. You'll hear me speak today, and very seldom will I use the word post-traumatic stress disorder. I will say post-traumatic stress, and many times I say post-traumatic stress growth, or post-traumatic stress injury, or post-traumatic stress reaction. And let's go back to that experience part. I'm going to share with you very quickly my experience. You see this sign up in front of you in a couple books that are called Covert. In 1973, I followed in my father's footsteps and joined the New Jersey State Police, and that organization is steeped in deep military tradition. It was founded by Colonel H. Norman Schwarzkopf, the father of General H. Norman Schwarzkopf of the Gulf War fame. And as I said, steep in deep military tradition. I was a general road duty trooper. I got a call at Somerville Station one day from division headquarters. It was Lieutenant Jack Liddy, and he said, are you going to be in for a while, kid? I said, yes, sir. He said, I want to speak with you. He had all kinds of titles next to his name. He was division headquarters, Organized Crime Bureau, Criminal Investigation Section. It wasn't normal for a general road duty trooper to be called by division headquarters directly. Folks, I grew up Irish Catholic. That means I wake up guilty in the morning. I thought I did something wrong. I thought I had a problem on my hands. I didn't know if I was going to get fired. I didn't know what was going on. Lieutenant Liddy came up and spoke with me. And in the time that we spoke, he said, are you interested in doing undercover work? I said, yes, sir. He said, I'll get back to you. As he turned, I said, Lieutenant, what is it, narcotics? Because back then, that's all cops were doing, buy, bust on the street. And he said, if you keep asking questions, you're going to be out of the running. I learned over a period of time that the President's Organized Crime Task Force, the FBI, and New Jersey State Police were going to join forces and start a trucking company on the waterfront in New Jersey to understand what this subculture of traditional organized crime was. I was selected to be one of those undercover people, and I lived that life. We were told it was 6 months. That was what the grant was written for. And I guess we had an aggressive mindset. We were going to end organized crime in New Jersey in 6 months, clean it up, and move on. We learned very quickly that wasn't going to happen. It ended up going on for 3 years. I became another person for 3 years and ran a trucking company. We had 2 trucking companies. The first one was a small one. The second one was a large one. I became the president of the second one. It was called Alamo Transportation. It was right in the shadows of the Statue of Liberty. We had 25 trucks hauling for us at one point. We had two partners known as the Genovese and Bruno crime family. We were kicking back 25% of our profits. We had 25 trucks hauling for us around the United States. We had 3 FBI agents who were playing roles in the undercover world with me. They were the accountants, the truck managers, and the salespeople at the trucking company. I was the president. We had an informant who was the vice president, and another trooper who played the role of my bodyguard and driver. So we mimicked other crews within traditional organized crime. I could go on with that Soprano-esque type story for hours. This book tells that story. But the important part to me is not that undercover story. It's what took place at the end. I thought the greatest day of my life was going to be when we arrested all these people and I got to be Bob Delaney again, because I was Bobby Covert. Now that's a catchy name for an undercover guy, but we weren't trying to be cute or funny. I actually took on the identity of a child who died at birth, Robert Allen Covert. Our death records and birth records are not cross-indexed in our country, so if you go to the death records and you find someone that died at birth, you can go over to the birth record side, get a birth certificate, and you start a whole new persona. We learned this from the Weatherman Underground, which was a domestic terrorist group back in the 70s. So this undercover phase of my life was about to come to an end. I thought this was going to be tremendous. So for those of you in the room that have ever participated in something like this, those in law enforcement, it's muster up at 3:30 in the morning, you go to a location, and troopers and FBI agents go out and pick up the defendants. The first wave was going to be 30 organized crime figures that we were going to arrest. I had nothing on me that said I was a state trooper. I had been pushed away from the outfit, and I became this other person for 3 years. So when I got there, I had nothing on me. I didn't have any ID, and they hadn't given my uniforms back. They wouldn't have fit anyway. I'd gained 40 pounds when I was working undercover. And Sergeant Barry Lardier was assigned to be with me. And as the defendants started being brought in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning by the troopers and the FBI agents, they were being processed. Process being fingerprinted, pictures, and shooting them off into rooms and seeing who's going to be the next informant. And Sergeant Lardier said to me, "You want to go downstairs and see where they're being processed?" I said yes when I meant no, because this is the first time I'm going to go eye to eye with people that are going to know who I really am. So that military bearing came to play. I put myself at parade rest, put myself looking tall, get the chest out, eyes up, look in the eyes of people that I'm going to confront. When we walked downstairs, a guy by the name of Ronnie Sardella was being fingerprinted. And I knew Ronnie very well. I stole trucks with him off the Port of Newark, committed crimes with him, knew his family, his kids. I've been to his home numerous times. And as he was being recuffed after being fingerprinted, he saw me standing there. And he said, "Bobby, what they pinch you for?" And before I could answer, obviously he thought I was handcuffed. I dropped my hands. Before I could answer, Sergeant Lardier said to him, "Pinch, he's not pinch, he's with us. He's a trooper." Ronnie, the look that went between us was not one of anger. It was not one of hurt, or it was one of disappointment. And he looked at me and said, "Bobby, how can you do this to us? How can you do it to me? I'm your friend." Freeze frame, go back to St. Mary's Grammar School, Paterson, New Jersey. I was caught by the Good Sisters of St. Dominic. I got caught doing something wrong in 4th grade. Sister Joseph Rosera told me I was going to be punished. Before she told me what the punishment was, I said, "Sister Jimmy DeLello's doing it too." I gave up my best friend in a heartbeat. You know the ring that says they're married to God? That's there to put welts on your head. Bang, she gave me a shot. She hit me in the head, and she said, "Delaney, you don't tell on your friends." We're socialized not to tell on our friends. It's an unwritten rule on a schoolyard that you don't tell on your friends. Yet what I was asked to do, what we ask undercover people to do, is become friends with people and tell on. That value of trust was broken. I didn't see myself as a state trooper. I saw myself as Bob Covert. I went through a very difficult time. I went through what became known as post-traumatic stress, but back then we didn't have a diagnosis for it. So I was dealing with, internally, a lot of emotions of not knowing what was going on inside of me, and had tremendous amounts of anger and frustration within me, but I didn't verbalize that to anyone. I was good at doing undercover work. We're all good at doing something. I could meet with the mob guys and be wired up and have the meetings, but I get 2 miles down the road and have to pull over and throw my guts up. Or find the first gas station I could find because I had diarrhea. Or I'd wake up in the middle of the night and the bed was soaking wet because of the perspiration of fear. When I got into relaxed states, I was good doing it when I was on and it was time to be with the bad guys. But when I got into a relaxed state, all of the telltale signs and all of the anxiousness started to come out. But I hid that because I'm a state trooper. And those who wear uniforms like to think of themselves as being able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. I can handle it. And I got lucky. A guy by the name of John Schroth was part of the security team that was with me when I would go testify in court cases. And we'd stop off every once in a while, whether it's stop at a bar or we're on surveillances or going to a restaurant. And I'd fall back into this Bobby Covert routine. I'd start acting like that undercover guy again instead of being me. He said, I don't know what's going on with you. John had a background in psychology from Rutgers University. He said, but something's not right. I didn't listen to him. I was being paraded around the country speaking. I testified before the United States Senate, before Congress on organized crime. And I was speaking one day at Jersey City Police Department Training Academy and telling the story from the investigative side, not sharing what I'm sharing with you today. And Dr. Hank Campbell happened to be in the audience. He was doing work with Jersey City Police Department. Hank was my college psychology professor at Jersey City State College. I was academically challenged at one of the finest institutions that we have in the United States, Jersey City State College, also known as Harvard on the Hudson up there in Jersey City. When Hank and I started doing informal therapy, he was the first one that said to me, Bobby, you're going through post-traumatic stress. I said, Hank, get out of here. I mean, that's what I'm hearing about. Soldiers coming back from Vietnam, they're doing studies on this. This is not me, I'm a state trooper in Jersey. That's a military thing. I pushed it away. I got lucky for the third time. A name that is in the news today, on this very day on ESPN all over the place, is Louis Freeh. Louis Freeh became the 15th director of the FBI. Lou Freeh was an FBI agent who worked on the investigation that I was involved with. But he was also working on my case in New Jersey and a case in New York. And he knew I was on an emotional roller coaster ride. And he put me together with an undercover agent that was working in New York by the name of Joe Pistone. Joe Pistone is the real Donnie Brasco. Joe and I are good friends to this day. And that was my first introduction to peer-to-peer therapy. Because Joe had gone through something similar to what I had gone through. So when I looked in his eyes, I read his body language, I listened to his words, I knew that he understood what I was going through. Folks, if I had a balloon in front of the room, how do I get the air out of the balloon? I can let it go. It flies all over the room. It's out of control. We don't know where it ends up. We don't know what's going to happen to it. I could take a pin, pop that balloon. We'll get the air out. But we don't have a balloon anymore. But if I'm patient and I'm willing to listen to some sounds that maybe I don't want to hear, and maybe it'll take me a little bit of time, but if I turn it upside down and I let a little air out at a time, it's going to make that screeching noise, some sounds you don't like hearing, and eventually we'll get all the air out of the balloon, and we'll have a full balloon we can use again one day. That's us with traumatic events. That's us with stress. We need to get the air out of our balloons. So the message that I share with our troops, with cops and firefighters and first responders, is that while you like to think of yourselves as leaping tall buildings in a single bound, and we know that heroic things are done on a daily basis by those in uniform, we still have to remember that there's human beings inside those uniforms. And I constantly underline that post-traumatic stress, which is a word that we're hearing on a daily basis, is not a mental disorder. It's a human condition. It happens to all of us. We are all susceptible to it. It happens after Katrina. It happens after Haiti. It happens after an automobile accident. It's the most common cause of post-traumatic stress. Yet when we put the word disorder next to it, it starts to conjure up this mental illness, and everybody starts doing the moonwalk. I'm backing up. I'm not part of that. The stigma starts to come. We've become a nation that is afraid to talk about anything from the neck up. If we talk about emotional, or if we talk about psychological, we have a problem with that. We need to mature as a society and understand that we all go through things. My wife, Billy, usually is here with me. Billy travels a great deal with me, and for those of you that know Billy, I'm really a lucky guy. When I always would work the NBA games, Billy would walk in with me so that the players could see her. It was my way of trying to show them that I had good judgment. And I said that many times. And one of the sports writers in the back of the room yelled out one night, it may say, you have good judgment, but it doesn't say a whole lot about hers. But Billy has this saying that, like we'll be at a cocktail party, and we'll be talking to somebody, another couple, and they'll be going on about how the kids are great and life's great, and they'll go on and on and on about how everything's tremendous. As we turn around and walk away, Billy will say to me, they're lying. Everybody has stuff in their life. If we're not honest about it, we're not getting the air out of our balloons. If we're not willing to speak about it. In doing the work that I do with the military, I've spent time with General Odierno, General Cohn. They're both four-star generals. General Odierno is Chief of Staff. General Cohn is the Commander of Training and Doctrine for the United States Army. And what I have voiced to them is I believe that we have handled this in reverse order. Is that what we have waited for, post-traumatic stress, to become examples of or signs of clinical manifestations of what that stress does to you. So it comes out in depression, or it comes out in other ways. And by coming out in other ways, then we handle it in this way. I'll give you 2 pills. You go over there, take the 2 pills, sit down and stay quiet, and everything's going to be fine. Because we can measure those 2 pills. And it's our way of saying we have done something. And I'm not saying that we don't need clinical or docs or clinicians. What I am saying is that there's got to be a first line of defense. And the first line of defense is peer-to-peer therapy. And peer-to-peer therapy works. I have seen it work. It worked for me. I've witnessed it with numerous other people. And what we're doing now is what we call 21st century therapies. We're encouraging soldiers, cops, firefighters that are experiencing what the rest of the world doesn't see to stay active and engaged. And there are programs like Ride to Recovery. Ride to Recovery is ride, number 2 in an interstate sign, recovery. It's bicycle rides on long distances. So my wife and I participated in the 9/11 challenge last year on the 10th anniversary of the attacks on this country. And we left Ground Zero at the time of the morning on September 11th that the first plane hit, and we rode to Shanksville, and then we rode to the Pentagon. 8 days, 580 miles, 350 people, 250 were wounded warriors. 100 of the others were made up of police officers and firefighters and family members of those impacted by the attacks on that day. Everyone was in red, white, and blue uniforms. It wasn't a race to recovery. It was a ride to recovery. It was no man left behind. And we stayed together and went on this journey, and every night, sitting around and speaking, peer-to-peer therapy was taking place. We had soldiers that had lost limbs. We had a soldier, Dexter, who had lost vision. And he rode on the back of a bicycle while his buddy rode in the front. And he was able to talk about that he thought of committing suicide when he came back. This was not the life that he wanted to lead. But he wanted these other soldiers to hear his words. Because he said, there's no greater feeling to me today than when my kids run their fingers and hands across my face. I wouldn't give that up for anything. For others to hear that is important. To understand when they hear it from one of their own, that's peer-to-peer therapy. If you all remember a movie by the name of Taking Chance, HBO did a movie. Kevin Bacon played the escort officer. Chance Phelps was killed in Vietnam. He was a Marine. And the story is about the escort officer bringing the body home. Well, Chance's dad is John Phelps. John Phelps today runs hunting expeditions in Wyoming for wounded warriors. It's not about having them go out hunting. It's about having them out there for 6 days and sitting around the campfires and having peer-to-peer therapy. Lieutenant Colonel Tim Karcher has taken over the Warrior Transition Battalion for the United States Army. And he is an amazing guy, a great American. He was hit with an RPG in Iraq, lost both legs. The story unto itself is amazing how they got him back because they couldn't chopper him out. There was too much enemy fire, as well as the winds were too high. They had to fight their way back to the field hospital. And in doing so, they got him back to the field hospital, then to Landstuhl, and back to the United States. I spent time with Tim at the Center for the Intrepid in San Antonio, Texas. And in speaking about not only visible wounds, but invisible wounds, he said to me, you know, Bobby, post-traumatic stress is like dieting. Some of us need to lose 5 to 10 pounds, some 10 to 20, and some of us are morbidly obese. And I said, Timmy, what a great way to put a quantitative measure to something that doesn't have a quantitative measure to it. And I said, I'm going to use that because it's a way to give a visual. And it's also, I know since I came out of the womb, I've been 5 pounds overweight, and I've been 10 to 20, and I've been morbidly obese. But it doesn't mean you stop living. What it means is you figure out how to deal with it, management, and try to lose some of it along the way. So it's not about losing all of the traumatic experiences that we have. It's understanding how to deal with it.
What I say to those troops, what I say to the firemen and cops, it's not what's wrong with you. It's about the wrong you experienced. So in helping them understand that, suicide prevention is a main thrust. We've been doing work with SOCOM. SOCOM is our Special Operations Command, which is the Green Berets and the Rangers and the SEALs. We have a spike in suicides amongst that community. General Admiral Bill McRaven is the commanding general, and his suicide prevention message is one of sharing peer-to-peer therapy, about helping each other. It's about reaching out. It's what you're doing for folks in this community. You're giving them a place where they can go and get help with what they're dealing with. You're giving them an opportunity to get the air out of their balloon. You know, the great coach John Wooden said that you cannot realize a full life until you do something for someone who will never be able to repay you. Using John Wooden's words, you all are living a full life because you're doing something for others and you're giving them an opportunity to voice and get out what's going on inside of them. We all need to do that. Every one of us. I can stand up in front of the room and I can give and profess all the things that I'm sharing in front of you. There's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't struggle with some of the things that are demons from my past. So we need to help each other and understand that we are all susceptible to post-traumatic stress. We're all susceptible to the potential for depression, to the potential for suicide. Those thoughts come at times when people least expect them. And they come as a result of what they're experiencing. And if they feel they're on an island by themselves, that's where the problems start to develop. So being a voice, and being a voice where we're going to go out and have a walk for life and be able to have a vision that the rest of this community can see is going to be powerful. You are going to create a change. And that's what leadership is. Leadership is about creating change. So you can figure out I like to talk. You know, Sandra told me I had 25 minutes. I do 15 minutes at home when the refrigerator light goes on. So what I'll do is I'll open it up for a couple questions if you wish, because I can go on and on and on, and I do like 4 or 5 hours when we do times with the troops. We don't do it all at once, but we do it over a series of days. But I'm giving you like bits and pieces. If anyone has any questions about the MBA career, the state police career, or anything about post-traumatic stress or any of the work that is being done with the troops, feel free. Yes, sir?
I was just wondering, when you were speaking with firefighters and police officers, was there a decrease in suicide and depression during your talk?
Well, you know what's interesting is, you know, what we're doing, Dr. Bengt Ernst is from Sweden. And Bengt is doing a study at Wayne State University right now, and he's an interesting guy. And the reason that he's at Wayne State is that Detroit Police Department has the highest incident of suicide of any police department in the United States. So we talk about peer-to-peer therapy, but we need to give people a way of understanding how to do peer-to-peer therapy. I can ask these two guys to speak with each other. And, you know, they'll leave here and they'll go down to a bar and they'll watch a ball game and they'll have a beer and they'll come back and they will think they spoke. You know, that's by who guys are, you know. So we can say peer-to-peer therapy, but we have to help them understand how to do peer-to-peer therapy. Because if I asked you, just as, you know, from that intellectual readiness part, if I asked who has the higher level of incidence of post-traumatic stress according to statistics, men or women? Men or women? Men? If you read and study, you will find that the percentages are going to show that women have a higher percentage. I believe it's skewed information. And the reason being is just what I said. That women are willing to speak about it. And where do you get statistics from? You get statistics from information that's given to you, or that you pull from people. So you gather it. But if men are not willing to speak about it, you're going to have skewed data. My belief in knowing and working with the men and women who serve us as police officers, firefighters, and soldiers is that I'm not making a judgment as to who has a higher level of incidence, but I do know that men are withdrawn, that they are not as willing to let the air out of their balloon. It's part of the socialization. If we look at gender as culture, we have a better understanding of it versus just looking at it as men and women. So It's been an honor to be here, a pleasure. I'll be around if anyone wants to come up and say hello. We also have some books that we're going to give away for you all, but the second book that I wrote is called Surviving the Shadows, A Journey of Hope into Post-Traumatic Stress. The key is it's a journey of hope, not a journey of doom and gloom into post-traumatic stress. It's a journey of hope into post-traumatic stress. So I thank you for doing what you do in our community. God bless, stay safe. I'll see you down the road. Thank you.
Mr. Delaney, we have a present for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Appreciate
much
it.
for
Thank
everything
you.
that you do. And at Manatee Glens, we totally agree with Bob Delaney. Talking about suicide doesn't cause it or promote it. It's just the opposite. Feeling alone and that nobody is understanding and validating what you're feeling is the worst thing that can happen to someone. So peer-to-peer, seeing clinicians, talking with your family, seeking help, those are all the ways to let the air out of your balloon. So thank you, Bob. Our goal is, how much money are we going to raise? 60,000. How much money are we going to raise? 100,000. Jerry Gren says 100,000. This is a man who speaks with authority. He raised the most money last year of any team. Congratulations, Jerry. So, how do we reach this goal? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pyramid scheme. We're going to recruit teams. We're going to commit to a goal for our team in terms of raising. We're hoping that you'll at least consider $100, maybe more. And we're going to get 60 teams out there. Do the math. And so that's how it's done. At Manatee Glens, we serve 1 out of every 30 families in Manatee County. So I think Billy is right. Everybody's got something going on. And we want to be sure that in a crisis, when someone is depressed, when they're thinking about harming themselves, that they have a place to turn. That's why we do Walk for Life, so that everybody has a place to turn in a crisis in Manatee County. So, when team captains, it says Team Captain Pledge. We're hoping you're going to fill us out right now and turn it in to Kalena. Where's Kalena? There she is in the blue. For your pledge, so that she can have confidence that we're going to make that $60,000 goal, no problem, and on our way to Jerry Gren's $100,000. So, the pledge card says, I'd like to promote awareness for depression to help prevent suicide. My team will raise $250. That gives services to 2 people for suicide risk assessment and an intervention. $500, 4 people. $1,000, 8 people. $2,000, 16 people. Manatee Glen serves over 12,000 people a year. If you have other ideas, businesses that want to donate, or if you have a loved one like Dr. Lucas who's been lost to suicide, she contributed a square to our Memory Keeper quilt. We're getting ready to start our second quilt. And what that does is commemorate a loved one lost and convey a message to everyone else who's lost a loved one. You're not alone. There is hope. Life does go on.